Hi everyone, I'm Samantha and welcome back. Today I am going to teach you how to make Gerbera daisies, Gerbera, I don't know, different strokes for different folks, but this is what we're going to be making. I'm trying this new thing where I do a little intro outro and you can see what I look like. I'm going to take you through step by step how to make these, how to dust them, kind of two different finishes here. All of the tools and equipment will be linked in the description box below. If you have any comments, I would love to hear them. Yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so to get started, we are going to take 18 gauge wires and make modified hook ends so that the end of the hook is flat and will sit under the center of the flower without making a dent. Now I'm just going to take some pale pink gum paste and massage in a little bit of shortening that's going to make it nice and pliable and easy to work with and roll out. Next, I'm rolling out the gum paste. So I'm trying to get it really, really thin. If you have a pasta maker attachment, I would roll it out to setting number 6. But here I'm just trying to roll it out by hand so that I can see through it. Next, I am going to cut out all of the petals I need and put them inside a little plastic sleeve to keep them from drying out while I work on putting the flower together. I'm going to cut out 2 small petals, 3 medium-sized petals, and 4 large petals per flower. I'm using the PME Daisy Plunger cutter set here, and I also have another cutter that's even larger that I use for either really big Gerbera daisies or for sunflowers. So once all my petals are cut out, I'm going to actually start from the bottom up. So I'm starting with the largest petals first, and what I'm doing is trying to make the edges of the petal sort of a little bit cupped and puff out a little bit, and then I'm going to set it upside down to dry so it kind of par dries that way. So first I'm going to use the small end of my ball tool to thin the edges a little bit, and now I'm using a veining stick and I'm just putting it in the center of each petal with the pointy end toward the middle and rocking it back and forth to widen the petal and kind of create like a little bit of not a full cupped shape, but a little bit of a curve to kind of give it the roundness rather than just being a flat petal. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback that some of the footage has been too fast, so I tried to slow it down here for you guys so you can get a really clear picture of what I'm doing. So you can see I just used the ball tool to thin it, and now I'm taking that veining stick. This is a gem number 12 veining stick, and I'm just setting it right down over the petal and gently rocking back and forth. And you can actually see the petal gets a little bit wider and the sides of that petal sort of start to wrap up around the veining stick itself, making it a little bit bigger and giving it that sort of very slightly cupped boat-esque kind of shape. And I'm just going to do that again here. And the previous petals I've done, you can see, again, I flipped them over just on the counter, and they're par drying upside down. This will help when we go to actually set them up to dry so that, again, they retain that shape that we're creating for them right now. Okay, once all your petals are done, we are going to actually set them up for the drying process. So first I'm taking a flower former. This is a Wilton flower former, and just a little piece of tissue paper, making a little donut to hold up the center of the bottom petal. Then I'm putting a little bit of egg white in the center and the next petal on top. And now what I'm doing is taking little tiny pieces of paper towels and using that to prop up the individual petals. And I'm going to do this for all 4 layers of the just for all the petals actually. So a little bit of egg white in the center, the next petal goes on, and then I'm just using my Dresden tool here, or you can use a scribe tool or a toothpick, whatever you have, just to pick up 2 or 3 petals at a time, kind of randomly around the edge of the flower, and propping that up with a little bit of paper towel. Because however this dries is how it's going to look when it's done. So you want to be mindful that you're going to give it a little bit of air between those layers and fluff it up. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for the medium-sized petals. So thinning, veining, gluing and adding with the paper towels to the former. You can also see I poked a hole in the center, and that is so that I can thread the wire through without damaging anything later on after the petals have par dried. Now it's time to work the smallest set of petals. And what I'm doing is thinning the edges a little bit, and then I'm using some spring-loaded scissors to actually make little cuts in each petal so that one petal almost kind of becomes 3. So 2 cuts per petal, and then you'll have 3 little bits. And now I'm using the wide end of the Dresden tool to pull down those little individual pieces I just made, those little cuts I just made, and that will make nice little frilly kind of bits. And these are going to go wrap around the center of our flower. And you can see I flipped them over to dry here. And now I am making the center. You can buy daisy cutter, or excuse me, daisy centers. I didn't have any, so what I'm doing is just taking a little bit of yellow gum paste. I'm using the center of the largest plunger cutter to measure the diameter. I'm using the pointy end of the Dresden tool to add some additional markings, and I have the first impressions mold that I'm using to help make some of those indentations. So grab your petal layer, put a little egg white or gum glue on it, pop your center in, and then you're going to wrap those edges around the flower. And you're going to repeat this process for the second layer as well. So a little bit of egg white in the center to hold it down, a little bit of egg white on the edges to help it stick to itself. Now I'm taking my wire, dipping it in egg white, threading it through the former, and then a little more egg white on top, and then pushing my center in. And I'm using the pointy end of my Dresden tool to help me get that nice and adhered. And then that will sit and dry overnight. So now that these have dried overnight, you can see that they're both nice and fluffy, and that's from adding that paper towel between the layers. It really helps give it a nice sort of burst open kind of effect. And now we're gonna dust. So I've linked all of the colors, the petal dusts, in the description below. And I always like to start on the back just to test out the different colors and make sure it's something I like. So I've got a magenta, I've got a pale pink, which is actually, I think the color is Cosmos, and I cut it with a little bit of cornstarch to lighten it up even further. And then I just once I decided I liked the color, finished doing the back and proceeded to take a nice fluffy brush and fill in gently all around the flower, in between all the different layers, and until I got it to a place where I was happy with how it looked. Nice and even and saturated. Next I'm taking a little bit of petal green and a little bit of kiwi green and just putting that in the center. Gerbera daisies have sometimes that yellowy green center, and sometimes they have a brown center. So your call on the type of daisy you're making. If you're making a daisy with a brown center, I would start with some brown colored gum paste rather than yellow. For the second daisy here, I'm doing a much lighter version. So I'm only using the very pale pink petal dust here. And this is really just to like breathe a little bit of life into it. I'm not trying to necessarily saturate it with color the same way I did with the first one. So dust it all around, just sort of lightly around the back. I'm not adding calyxes to these either, you'll see, just because they're probably not going to be seen in the arrangement. So I've left them off here, but once you're finished dusting, then these are done. They're good to go. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe. Tools and equipment listed also in the description. And I will see you next time.